Hey everybody, it's Monica with FitEatsCoach.com, and today I'm back with small space travel workouts that you can do just about anywhere, even in your home if you have a very tiny space. So we had a blast hiking out in the Chiricahua Mountains, but it was so cold that I really wasn't able to do my workouts that I normally do outdoors. So I decided to film a quick RV workout. So we're gonna go through 6 minutes of warm up, which is really important. And then we're gonna go through 14 minutes of time efficient exercise that targets pretty much the whole body. All right, so we're gonna get through this warm up really quickly, but if you don't even have time for this, you can just skip forward to 5 minutes and 55 seconds and get right into the workout. All right, we're starting with front to back leg swings and side to side leg swings to create heat in the body, to open up the hamstrings, the quads, hip flexors, and the torso. This is probably one of my favorite ways to warm up quickly, but there are many other ways that you can warm up. If you don't want to do this kind of thing, maybe you can just do a set of squats, lunges, jumping jacks, maybe jump rope. Maybe you can actually be right outside of your hotel room or RV or wherever you are and do something that's a little bit more cardiovascular. This is just one of many ways that you can warm up. There are many others that I have shared over at FitEatsCoach.com blog. I will post a link to all those warm-ups in the description of this video. All right, so after you do your front to back leg swings, you're gonna do some torso rotations, also some arm windmills to open up your upper body. Get that chest opened up, get those shoulders and head aligned with the rest of your body. So when you're traveling, you know that it's really hard to maintain good posture. You end up with rounded shoulders, maybe your neck's a little bit off and your low back is kind of achy from sitting for long periods of time. These are all great moves to get all the kinks out so that you can have an amazing workout. I'm even doing neck rotations in both directions. And again, everything that I'm doing here is only about 6 to 8 repetitions to each side. That way you can get done with this warm up in under 6 minutes and then get right to your workout. Okay, so next up we have two of my favorite moves for unstiffening the body after long car trips or long plane rides. This is a wide stance squat with an upper body twist. It will lengthen those inner thighs and open up your obliques and also target some really deep postural muscles of the back that tend to get really stiff from sitting for long periods of time. Again, you're only doing 6 to 8 reps on each side, and then right after that, you're going into a deep lunge hamstring stretch. So this is like a runner's stretch, some people call it, and if you don't have the flexibility to get really low with your hands, you can use a prop under your hands. You can even place your hands on a much higher surface like a couch or a chair. As long as you just align your hip right next to that surface, you can use it to help you just kind of rock front to back, making sure that your knee stays over your heel and that you're lengthening those legs as you drag the hips to the back of the room. Make sure that your back stays nice and flat. You're not rounding the back. And one way to do that is to really draw the belly button to the spine. So not only is this great for the lower body, it also begins to really activate your core and align your entire spine for really coordinated movement. All right, so these last few moves are ones that I never skip anymore for warm-ups, even when I have a lot of space and a lot of time, partly because they really affect how well you move during more complex movement patterns. So cat-cow is really great for creating more mobility through the entire spine, and it also really activates your core if you're really drawing that belly button up to the ceiling as you round the back, and then releasing the abs completely as you arch the back. After that, you can just sit back on your heels and do a little bit of scapular retraction using the band. So we're doing like a reverse fly, and if you don't have a band for this, you can always do this with just your arms. And I'll share a few other ways to modify these exercises if you don't have some of the equipment that you're seeing. Notice how I'm kind of rolling my head around, because as you're doing this movement, it really starts to realign your head with the rest of your body. And this right here on the foam roller is something that I'm absolutely not ever skipping anymore. I do this every day, sometimes twice a day. Because of the amount of time that we all spend on computers and just devices in general, this is so important for creating that nice upper back mobility that we need to be able to do good planks, good rowing work. All right, finally, this is the bent leg wipers that I love to do with a lot of my clients. Most of my clients have really bad hip mobility and back mobility, and this is a very easy way to improve that. So there's a lot of back and hip mobility stuff going around on social media that is so complicated and unnecessary. This is one of the most simple moves that you can do to improve in these areas, and it doesn't take a lot of time or space because you're using that bent leg pattern. Finally, as part of our warm-up, we have a little bit of core and glute activation and also some more scapular retraction. So we're using the band to squeeze those shoulder blades together, and we're drawing the abdominals in as we roll the knees in and open the band, and then keep the abs nice and tight as you lift the hips up to the ceiling, pushing from the heels, keeping the toes off your mat. So this exercise will target your glutes and core. If you have some weakness there, it's really important to get it working before your workout so you don't hurt yourself. All right, now we are ready to get started with our quick 14-minute total body workout. In case you haven't noticed, all the gear that I'm using for this warm-up and workout is right there next to me, and it fits in a very small backpack. It's a fold-up mat, a glider, some TheraBands, booty bands, and a super band, which I'm using here to start with bent over rowing. Notice how I'm hinging at the hip and not at the waist, and I'm keeping my elbows close to my body as I draw my hands right next to my rib cage. And I'm obviously using my core to stabilize against the pulling of the band. So when you have the band under your foot, it kind of pulls you around, and that's really great for working the back as well as the core. Okay, right after that, you have gliding side lunges. If you don't have a glider, you can also just do a side step lunge, but make sure that you're keeping all the weight in the heel of the stationary leg. So that's the working leg, and that you're hinging at the hip and not at the waist. So you don't want a rounded back. You want your back to be nice and flat as you reach for the floor. And if the floor is too far, then maybe reach for a slightly higher surface like a yoga block or a foam roller that's positioned the long way, or also a chair or couch. You don't have to go that deep if you're not that strong, but as you get stronger, you definitely want to reach for the floor so you're getting the maximum benefit of this exercise. Also make sure that you are contracting your core to keep your back safe. Next up, we have a reverse gliding lunge with a band fly. So again, we're revisiting that band fly for scapular retraction, and we're combining it with that gliding lunge, which makes it a more complex pattern that burns more fat and calories when you are pressed for time. And it also really helps to improve your core and glute stability as well as balance and coordination. So this is one of those moves that has a lot of benefits because you're combining two movement patterns into something that's a little bit more complex. My favorite thing about this movement is that it has the added benefit of stretching your chest and stretching your hip flexors and core, which tend to get really crunched up when you're traveling. And just in general, when you're sitting at a desktop doing work or doing all your devices and things that you do all day that are very sedentary. Okay, so right after you are done with your gliding reverse lunge band fly, you're gonna go right into a bent over hip extension. Notice how I'm keeping my leg as straight as possible and I'm keeping my foot flexed. That's gonna target your glute maximus, which is where you really wanna get that work in. And also being in this slightly bent over position will also work your core. Notice how my back is really flat and I am leaning into that couch a little bit, but I'm trying my hardest to really get that band to expand to the widest point as I'm doing this exercise. That's really the goal, is to work your glute max as effectively as you can. So having good form is key. Next up, we have this lateral step using your band, and notice how it's kind of a partial squat. It's not really a full-on squat, although you could totally do that. I'm just staying upright mainly and keeping a slight bend in the knees and a little bit of bend in the hips, so I can get a little bit of core work in there. But I'm just mainly focused on stepping out side to side and working on my glutes. All right, next up we have supine straight leg abduction into an elevated bridge with abduction. So you're doing abduction from two positions, and you're really focused on using those glutes and core to elevate those hips up as high as you can. Now you can put your feet up on a couch, a chair, even a wall, or even a lower surface if you need to. And also, if this band abduction is too much for you because your glutes are not that strong, or maybe your core isn't coordinating very well with your glutes, then you can eliminate that part of the exercise and just work on that elevated bridge. That's really the important part here, is to push into the heels, get those hips up as high as possible. You almost want to create a line from the knees down to the shoulders as you're up in that high bridge. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the transitions between these exercises have been super quick. I've actually cut them out, otherwise they would have made this video way too long. And the reason for that is we're not training to build gigantic muscles and powerlifting capacity. We're training for metabolic, functional purposes, general fitness. You don't need to be taking a whole heck of a lot of breaks, which is, probably a good thing if you're pressed for time. You're just gonna go through this workout like a quick circuit. All right, next up we have single leg bridges using a super band. If the super band is too hard, then you can completely get rid of it. If it's too easy, then you can fold it in half and make this exercise incredibly challenging. The main thing here is to push through the heel of the supporting leg. That's the working leg. And what you're trying to do, as I explain to my clients, is stick that band up towards the ceiling. And how you're going to do that is pushing through the opposite heel and really working on contracting that glute and contracting that core. Keeping the elbows on the ground is also a good idea, or at least keep them really close to your rib cage. Now, one thing that happens with this exercise is people try and cheat. They try to push through the ball of the foot, which basically all that does is give you cramps in your hamstrings, in your calves, and it makes your knee hurt. So it has no benefit to push through the ball of the foot. So really make an effort to keep your toes and ball of your foot from getting into this exercise. It's all about pushing through the heel, targeting that entire posterior chain and core. All right, so we are down to the last few exercises of this workout. Here we have a banded bird dog. So maybe you've done bird dogs before and it feels kind of easy to you. This is a way to really create instability in a safe way that's gonna get your core a lot stronger. So as that band is going across the torso in that diagonal pattern, that's when you're gonna feel the most unstable, and that's when you really need to target those deep abdominals to keep you from falling. And here's how easy it is to get into this position. Just kneel, put your foot on the center of the band, hold it nice and tight as you take that foot back, and then place your hands on the floor. You won't lose the band if you have it nice and flat on the ball of your foot. And then you're just gonna extend opposite arm, opposite leg as you're tightening up that core and staying really mindful of what's going on in the entire torso. Your glutes are gonna work minimally, also your shoulders, your triceps, your rear shoulders, and your low back will also be working. So this exercise trains a lot of different muscles, but mainly it's training that stability pattern of the core that's gonna help you do more complex movements when you're standing and starting to explore more advanced workouts. Next up, we have a kneeling tricep exercise, which is great for toning that area of the arm that women love to complain about. But also the way that you are doing this tricep extension is diagonally across the body. So you're getting that core and glute activation. You're also targeting your rear shoulders, your entire back, and getting some more of that scapular retraction to really open up that chest so that you have really nice posture. Notice how you position the band and then pull across that inner thigh, so you're coming across the body. This is really important. I know it can be a little bit confusing when you're doing these kind of Pilates inspired exercises on how to position the bands, but just try your best. I have a few tips on this over on the blog, as well as tips about how to structure a travel workout so that you get the most out of it. All right, next up we have, again, a Pilates focused exercise that works on the back, the shoulders, and the arms, but that also lengthens the hamstrings, the glutes, and the low back. So this is an amazing exercise, and if you really focus on your core, you're gonna get a really added bonus of this, which is that you are flattening your abdominals from deep inside, and you're also slimming your waist. So these multi-purpose exercises are really the best ones to do when you're traveling, because they have so many different benefits. So unlike an isolation exercise that only targets one tiny part of your body, it barely burns any calories, and you don't really see that toning result that you want because you're not working all the muscles as they were intended to be worked. This is the kind of stuff that gets you the results that you're after. All right, we're going back to our banded abduction, but this time we're gonna do it from a tabletop position. So this is like doing a reverse plank, except you got your legs bent, which is going to make it a little bit easier. Play around with your foot positioning until you get the right distance so that you feel that abduction at the top. So you want to spread that band apart, and then as you're coming down, you let that band come back in. This is a little bit challenging sometimes to manage, so make sure that you have good footing so that your feet don't slide, and you're really getting that nice abduction at the top. Another important thing to focus on when doing this exercise is the position of your hands and what's happening with your upper back. So you want to squeeze those shoulder blades together so that chest opens up. And you can point your fingers towards your feet, out to the sides or to the back, whatever your shoulder and chest mobility allow, and whatever works best for your body is what you should do. So don't think that your hands need to be in that fixed position. You can actually move them around to accommodate whatever shoulder situation is going on. All right, next up we have a gliding pike from the forearms. So this is one of those ab exercises that's really going to challenge you. You have to really draw that belly button up towards the ceiling and then continue to draw the hips up towards the ceiling. You want to be doing this with your core and not trying to muscle this with your upper body and your legs. Notice how my legs are staying fairly straight, and that's one of the reasons why we were doing seated Pilates band work with foldovers, because the order of these exercises is really important. If you don't do things in the right order, at the end, you won't be able to do the really fun stuff. So that's another thing that you should focus on when structuring your travel workouts, is make each exercise build on to the next one, so everything supports everything. Finally, this last exercise is a glute kickback, balancing on a foam roller, which is really amazing for your core and your glutes as well. But this is totally optional. You don't have to do this. And this was leading up to some foam rolling that I did after this workout. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it has been helpful. Thanks for following, subscribing, and liking this video. If you need more tips or access to other travel workouts that I filmed in the past, be sure to visit fiteatscoach.com for access to all that and many other workouts that I post over on there. Thanks for watching.